Greetings, children, and welcome to my chamber. My name is Rotherick Gastblood, and I'm your host of Tales from the Dark Chamber. This week, we have a great show for you. Tales to make your skin crawl. Each week, my chambermate and I read a scary tale that we found on the internet, or perhaps left under some corpse. Either way, we think you're going to like it, and we're just dying for you to hear it. So sit right back, light a candle, and let's have a ghoul evening.
Hey, Rotherick, what do you think of my Halloween costume? Cool, isn't it?
Cool? Cool? Looks like you're going to roast in that outfit. What are you supposed to be anyhow?
Well, this year there's a contest at my local bar, and I'm going as a medieval plague doctor. I've got the hat, I've got the mask, I've got the coat, and all the accessories to look really creepy. And I'll even make up my face to look as though I have the plague.
Well, you ninny, you don't need that get-up to look horrific. You only need to look like what you do when you get out of bed.
Funny, Rotherick. So, wait, hold on.
Phew! I could hardly breathe in this mask.
Forgot to cut the air hose again, eh, Woody?
Oh, yeah. I guess I did, huh? So what are you going as? Anything special?
Seriously, Woody? Me? I'm a ghoul. Halloween means nothing more than another opportunity to rob some fresh graves and wreak havoc amongst the unsuspecting children who are dressed as Superman and pretty princesses. Disgusting, if you ask me.
Oh, now, Rotherick, Halloween is good fun. You know, going out, trick-or-treating, looking as creepy as you can.
And you're going to a bar, trick-or-treating, looking like you're about to spread smallpox? Is that your idea of fun?
And yours is digging up the dead? I'll take my fun any day.
Suit yourself. So anyhow, what's tonight's story about?
So tonight, we start a tale called ToMmY. It's rather long, so we'll be reading it in sections. So far, we're building on a few characters in the backstory. Tracy, Lucas, and Sarah, set in Portland, Maine. Enjoy! ToMmY, a Portland, Maine series by Medic Man, Part 1. October 30th, Portland, Maine. The screen had taken its toll on Tracy's eyes. She had spent all night typing her segment on the drought. The small city of Portland had been a madhouse lately. The stress from all it had its residents on edge. Everyone except Tracy. Her newfound local stardom has her hungry for more. Her latest piece on the double homicide out on Route 40 had skyrocketed not only her success as a reporter, but also the ratings of the local news team. All eyes were on her as she dug for more. Some envied her, while others despised her. This was the price she had to pay for achieving so much over the past 5 years. Hugo Long's interview had Tracy wondering why so many strange things were happening in her humble city. There was more going on than she knew. She felt it in her gut. Unfortunately, all she could find to cover was Portland's drought. It had been over a month since any sign of rain showed its face. Local farmers were starting to feel nature's wrath as the soil thickened and became tough. Tracy frowns as she sits up in her desk at her laptop. This was boring. She reached in her desk and pulled a crime scene photograph of Michael Tanner. He was one of the victims of the wreckage. Chills shot down her spine as she gazed at his face. He wasn't just another dead body. His mangled body told a story. It was a story that was still a mystery to the local police and to her as well. She may never find out who killed him or why Odagu was carved into his skin, but she knew it wasn't random. She had suspected Hugo, but without proof, even mentioning his name would spoil her rising success. This was something she couldn't have right now. Suddenly her office door opened, and her boss swiftly walked in. Her overweight asshole of a boss. He was sloppy, and Tracy was pretty sure he was sexist. He closed the door behind him. His face reeked of desperation as he looked at her. "Tell me you're done with the drought piece, and you're ready to report it," he said in a frustrated tone. "No, Arnold, I'm not. It's not like there's much to report. It's a dry spell. What do you want me to do? Stand in a hot farm and point at the sun to my viewers?" she said. "Not exactly. Finish up the notes and get ready to take a ride with Tony out to the Harrison farm. I need you to cover the new owners. The damn place sold. Can you believe it?" Wait, what? So you come in here and ask your star reporter to cover someone moving into the Harrison farm? Why would anyone care about that? Because the farm has a dark past. It hasn't sold in over 50 years. If anything, you can get a rise in the ratings by telling a stupid ghost story, you mean, Tracy interrupted. Look, I know it's been dry lately, but think of it as a suspense piece. A doctor bought a farm. It's a young woman and her son. This could be a good thing. It's better than the drought story, isn't it? Just get your ass there. Don't bitch about this, Tracy. With that, he shut the door. Tracy rubbed her eyes and spun her desk chair around to face the window. She crossed her arms and bit her lip. This was ridiculous. Was she really going to subject herself to farmhouse ghost stories now? She looked outside towards the people all living their daily lives. The sun cast down a fury of heat onto the asphalt below, creating heat waves. Great, she barked. I'm going to ruin my makeup in this heat. She grabbed a set of index cards and made her way out of the office. This was going to be a long day. New Hampshire, Coastline Dockhouse. October 30th, 2 a.m. His face hit the ground with a sickening crack, instantly painting the white concrete in thick red lines like a mad painter attacking his canvas. The old dock worker leaned up, his eyes burning with a mixture of tears and blood, and made an attempt to plead with his attacker. It was too late. The damage had been done. The high-intensity contact with the unforgiving ground would swell his brain in a matter of hours to the point of hemorrhage. He was in too much pain to speak. His attacker, Lucas, towered over him. His eyes casted down at him with a vicious rage. He was lost to the madness within him. He had a deep, insatiable desire to kill. He grabbed the old man by his throat and held him close to his face. He needed to feel his final moments escape from his lips. To Lucas, this was a special moment. The final moments of a man's life exposes them to the world, if for just a few moments, and Lucas was there to watch it happen. Some beg, some cry, some do a mixture of both. He was curious as to who this man really was when facing death. The man said nothing. He simply stared at Lucas. His eyes were fading in and out of consciousness. Lucas grew bored and slipped 6 inches of sharpened German steel into his gut and twisted the blade 90 degrees. With the blade facing down, he split the man down to his groin and then dropped what remained of him to the ground to spill onto the concrete. He reached into his jacket pocket and removed a set of keys with a tag that read Jameson. This must have been the name of his boat. His time in this state had come to an end. He had to move on, and what better way than to take to the ocean? Lucas removed his ski cap from his face and took the cool salt water air into his lungs. He could hear the water knocking against the docks. There was an unmistakable calm in the night that soothed him. Maybe it was the darkness. It reminded him of his youth, spent in his dad's basement. He never saw himself a killer. The media had, though. The world depicted him as a serial murderer. They described his crimes as gruesome, with a complete lack of respect for human life. He disagreed. To him, he was releasing his victims from the cruel world he had come to know. His routine had become redundant, constantly on the move, and choosing his prey was time-consuming. This time, he grew impatient and took a life out of necessity to escape this place. He had to leave. Lucas was always careful. He had to be. He made sure never to leave behind any real trace of evidence that would lead the police to him. If he was caught, then the fun would stop. He couldn't have that. He always made sure to wear gloves and a mask, not to leave behind any prints or hair. He wore generic shoes, a size too small to deter any real shoe prints. He killed with his left hand even though he was right-handed. Lastly, he never killed more than 2 victims a state. This way, a real geographical profile would be harder to determine. He did, however, leave behind a sign. It was his M.O., a small clue to let the professionals know it was him. After all, he wanted recognition for his artwork. Lucas would always gut his victims and then paint a smiley face in blood somewhere around the body. It was his way of showing the world he was in control. Lucas leaned down next to the man and left his mark. He then made his way to his boat. With no real destination in mind, he turned the ignition on, untied the rope from the dock, and headed north up the coast towards Maine. Wherever he ended up was always half the fun. He couldn't wait to see his next victim. Lucas smiled wide as the salty air whipped across his face and disappeared into the black ocean in front of him. Harrison Farm, Portland, Maine. October 30th, 11 a.m. The hot sun left Sarah's forehead a misty mess as she opened the car door to stretch her legs. The drive was long, but well worth it. She stretched her arms as she took in the fresh air. The blue hot sky above her shined down upon her new home. It was beautiful. This was a fresh new start, and she was excited to share it with the most important person in her life. Her sulking son Danny sat in the back seat with his headphones in, ignoring the fact that their drive was done. This was the last place he wanted to be. Sarah knew this change would come with consequences, and she had weighed her options. Their life in Des Moines, Iowa had become hectic for Sarah. She had sheltered her 8-year-old son from the madness of his father, and it was getting harder the older he got. Sarah was driven to give Danny the life she never had. She had made a good life in Iowa with a respectable career as a forensic pathologist. She was the youngest in her family to achieve such success at the age of only 28. She had everything going for her except a healthy love life. Danny's father, Jason, was her worst mistake. She was young, careless, and stupid. She'd met him at a traffic stop. He had pulled her over for speeding. At the cost of losing a perfect record, she had flashed him her breasts to avoid any trouble and to avoid a scolding father. He was handsome. She liked his rugged features. This wasn't something she often did. A part of her, though, wanted him to see her. It was the thrill of the high of being exposed that led her to her childish act. It's one she now regrets. Jason had talked her into going out with him. She agreed. He was nice, mysterious, and had a wit about him that she was attracted to. She had no idea he had demons. Jason, like his father before him, often found his peace of mind at the bottom of a bottle. Some nights his demons crept up on him, and in a fury of alcohol-induced violence, he took it out on her. At first, she didn't blame him. His job often weighed heavily on his consciousness. He'd taken the life of a child on accident. He'd mistakenly took a toy gun as a threat and acted out of sheer impulse. It made the news. All eyes were casted at him. The media turned it into a shitstorm. Why did you use lethal force? Child murderer, asshole, drunk. These were the names that were thrown at him, and in return, he threw his fists at Sarah, who did nothing more than try to show him that he wasn't at fault. She'd spent many nights in the bathroom with a blood-soaked rag, downing ibuprofen. She had enough. Danny was present the last time he put his hands on her. He shed tears for his mother. She knew it was time to move on. Jason would have to drown his sorrows alone. So she made the necessary transfer submissions and had picked Portland for 2 reasons. The pay was great, and it was by the Casco Bay. It was beautiful, and it seemed a promising bright future for her and her son. The farmhouse was a steal. It was a 4-bedroom ranch with 3 acres of land set off about 30 miles west of Route 40 and close to the interstate. The location was right outside the city limits and only a 20-minute drive into Portland. It was just enough isolation to find peace and just enough distance to enjoy what the city had to offer. She was happy. However, her son was not. Though he understood why his mother had to move him away from home, he was against moving away from his friends. Sarah overlooked the farm. She knew it was old. Despite the weathered shingles and slight dry rot, it was in good shape. The soil, once rich in nutrients, bore corn and fruit. It now served a barren patch of land that blew up dust in the wind. The wheat field that stretched the front of the house was still in good shape, however. ToMmY, a Portland, Maine series by Medic Man, Part 1. Well, folks, that's our story tonight. Rotherick and I hope you enjoyed it. We sure had a great time bringing it to you, and we really appreciate you listening. Tune in next week when we bring you another chilling tale from the dark chamber. And just a note, if you're an aspiring author and you want your story read here on Tales from the Dark Chamber, send us a note at talesfromthedarkchamber@gmail.com. If it creeps old Rotherick out enough, we'll air it. And subscribe to our podcast for notification of our next new episode, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Tales from the Dark Chamber and follow us on Instagram or Twitter. If you want your story read for your own use, or you just want to have it, check out my website at woodygvoiceover.net. You can order there, or you can find me on Upwork as Woody G. And again, thank you for listening tonight.